want to bring up some concept art and stuff like that. I want to talk about the process of how this idea came to be. So like I wanted to really convey the idea that, you know, he had taken over Damien's body, but he was still wearing like the same type of clothing. It's just like a color palette. Because Damien, the last time we saw him was in a tuxedo, and it was like a black tuxedo, you know, pretty standard. But you know, if we're gonna take him from his red robe and his white kerchief or whatever that was, we're just gonna transplant him over here. So that was kind of like the concept to really like embody how this character was going to come across, because one of the biggest challenges with making animation is like everything has to be conjured up from scratch. Everything has to be thought up from scratch, exactly how it's going to look, how it's going to come across. And in the end, you know, the characters, they really came to life. But you know, when it comes down to like the concept, like you really have to kind of feel it out, and then we have to transfer it how you're going to make this style repeat across. I love this like snowy version of Celine, because she just looks so deadly and just ready to kill somebody. It's just super cool right there. But you know, like kind of the idea of the main colors and stuff like this, it's kind of like any Tumblr mood board or something like this. And here's our boy, the scruffy haired, the scruffy haired dude. So yeah, I with this, I really wanted to give like Damien, like transfer a lot of his personality that came out of his costume in Who Killed Markiplier, and try to translate into something that would exist in a winter theme. And you know, you got your snowy version there. We actually didn't end up really having a lot of like snowy details about it, because it was never actually like actively snowing until the run into the lake. But yeah, so we kind of had we kind of had a lot to play around with. What we're gonna do is we are gonna do what we've done for the past few projects, and we're gonna go step by step of Damien. We're gonna watch it through, and I'm going to basically give commentary and explain it as we go through it. And then after we watch through it, we will talk about exactly like all the answers to all the questions. I want to answer all the questions basically. So just to break down that first segment, and what I really wanted to convey, a lot of people picked up on this, but you know, I just to show I released a video 9 months ago called Go Back to Sleep. I released it at like midnight, and a lot of people will see, and they're like, oh, these are parallels, and basically, yeah, you're right, these are parallels, because you can see like the opening shot of Damien from this. And what I wanted to do with this just shows how long ago I wanted to make this. This was in August of last year. I made this because I wanted to make Damien. This was like my lookbook for Damien, for Akapara to take and be like, this is the mood I want. I made this like at late at night just because I really wanted to do this. But yeah, this is how long ago I wanted to make this. And like, there's a lot of themes here that tie into a lot of other things I was connecting. Like the last shot of Damien, like with Celine there, that's what that's all about. You know, just generic stuff. Like it's the winter landscape. You know, the old wooden barn, shed, cabin, whatever you want to call it. And like the concept of like go back to sleep and stuff like that, like it really plays out in Damien in such a cool way. And yeah, it's just like what the most frustrating part about things like this, and realizing that when you have to work with other people who can do things that I cannot, it takes time. It takes a lot of time. 9 months of work to plan out this and try to get this going, and all of this also like offshoots of this kind of idea that I was bringing up after Who Killed Markiplier came out. You know, I wanted to make one thing to really finish off the whole storyline with that, and I'll get into more details about that later. But just like, I really wanted something that was going to set the mood, and I feel like the first minute of Damien is just part of like the coolest opening sequence I could have possibly hoped for. But anyway, so the next is like setting the environment. You get like the opening, like an establishing shot, and then you get the environment. This long journey back, carrying wood an indeterminate distance, and I wanted to really like let this play. Like, this is just how far Damien went. Every day Damien had to go this frickin' far just to get wood. And like, it's this long journey. It's like, this isn't even conveying how long it really is. Like, it's a long walk, and like, you can see that in the last shot, because in the last shot when it's sweeping over the hills, like, there's he just has to cut farther and farther down. But yeah, and then like getting Celine back in here and really like having Celine be this like. Celine like not having a speaking introduction into this, just like being there as an observer, just watching, like just leering over Damien's work, just sitting there and waiting for him to come back. Like, I just wanted to show that. The door. Okay, so yeah, with like that journey, yeah, destroying the environment. Yeah, that's pretty much what it was about. Yeah, because she has a job to do while he's resting. Yeah. Don't slam the door, the damn door, the door. So what I really wanted to do about this, and I'm going out of order from my notes, but I wanted to flesh out Celine as a character, because Celine in Who Killed Markiplier was a very unknown. One of the things that I want you guys to know is that I am not a perfect writer. I'm not a great writer. I am better than I was, but if I'm just now getting decent, 2 years ago I was not a perfect writer. So when Celine was introduced, Celine was not a perfect character because her motivations were unknown. And I'm okay with like a sense of mystery, but if a character's motivations are unknown and then never determined, that's not good writing. Like, because then you have no idea. It's such an open-ended thing, and so all of the ideas of like, don't trust the seer don't make any sense, because you don't know what the seer wants, or who the seer is, or like who like the seer like represents in the story. So when I wanted to tell this story, I had this idea that I wanted to make Damien and Celine brother and sister, and because it made sense, like there was a resemblance, and like canonically I just wanted that to be the case, and also adding that layer really made Celine's character a lot more robust. It made it so that she had something to care for, and it made her motivations very known. Like, she's there to protect her brother, and like that's her big overarching motivation in this. And so like this opening dialogue, I needed to have it play out in like this quiet way to, number one, show that like, you know, Damien has a job to do, and it's a very simple job, but he mentions something that's different than in here, and I'll just let it play. So with this, like it mostly like I wanted to write dialogue that was, number one, to establish how their relationship worked together, like Celine's nature of being like this overprotective, like controlling older sibling, like very typical, but also, you know, they have a nice dynamic, and I wanted them to be, you know, friendly, and I also wanted to showcase that this flower is not normal, because, you know, no one at this point knows that like things are looping over and over again. No one knows that, but that's why Celine stops at the door case and is like, did you really see a flower? Because I just wanted to show that like this is an anomaly. And originally, like, this script was a lot longer, but with animation and like costs of animation, I pared it down. It was originally going to be like 30 minutes or something like that, and then I had to squish it down. Like, a lot of the ideas are just like really squished in there just because of limitations of time and stuff like that.
Maybe I am tired.
So Damien like suddenly gets tired. Like that's a point. Like he, as many of you guys noticed, like he's just on a loop. He's in a loop. He's just looping over and over again. He doesn't realize it. You know, he thinks his dialogue was that winter will be over soon, you know. And as you guys know, when you've seen this, at the end of it, like all those trees that are covering the hills are representative of, like, every day he goes out to cut a tree. Every tree stump represents a day. The trees just go on endlessly and endlessly out. So he's been in this place for an unknowable amount of time, living the same exact day over and over again, while Celine watches over and goes out at night to accomplish her business. And so, like, it's just it doesn't matter like how many days. So everyone that's trying to count the number of trees, like, that's not the point. It's just, it's all metaphor to try to showcase that he's stuck in purgatory. Like, that's the idea of it. And so when he sees his flower, like, this is the first thing that's changed. And so this scene, originally there were going to be three. Originally there were going to be three loops before he goes to the lake. There were three different loops there, and it was slowly building out of those loops. And there was one other middle scene in there, but for the sake of the story, I had to condense it and chop it out, and then re-input those elements into other parts of the story, and it worked out. So with this, like the flower, everyone's always debating like what the flower is, what breed it is. It doesn't matter what breed it is. What matters is that it's pink. Like, those dialogue that plays out there, they are exact lines from Wilfred Mother-Loving Warstash. And the point that's trying to convey here is this flower is the first change in his environment in anything. Like, the whole motif is like winter is turning into spring, like as a means of suggesting that he's leaving this purgatory. The reason that flower is there is moreover to the fact that Warstash is starting to peel back the layers that are like covering up this world, and he's starting to crack like the code of the Matrix. He's trying to like get behind he's starting to get behind the scenes, and he's starting to spread out. This flower, it's not a conscious reach out from Warstash to Damien. It is just a result of Warstash actually like coming to terms with what's happening and where it's going. Time is very like wishy-washy in this place. Like, I wanted to really convey the sense that, you know, time, when it comes to ideas, you know, there really is no start and finish to it. Like, an idea, once it exists, it has always existed. Like, I kind of like wanted to convey that, like, once the idea comes across for Warstash that he's really like starting to come to terms with who he is and what he's doing, like it echoes beyond that, and it can kind of lead cracks in the world of the environment itself. If like everything is just this one unified space of like in the house or in the upside down or whatever you want to call it, then someone breaking the rules over here spills out and affects everyone else who's also in this place. Because if the rules change, then the rules change for everybody. And this is just like a first clue of what's happening. Does that make sense? Probably not. But all that dialogue is saying that this is a result of Warstash. It's not a conscious choice of him. It's not him trying to help Damien. It is just a result of that. Because I wrote this in Wilfred Mother-Loving Warstash at about the same time, to both wrap up this story from the two angles and of the two angles of the two main characters, and then really give them resolutions and use these as vehicles to answer questions that came up out of Who Killed Markiplier. So that's what that is. So then he comes back to the cabin and he's looping again.
What are you muttering about?
I heard. So the thing that I was most worried about going from 3 loops to 2 is 3 is the minimum amount you need to establish a pattern. But with 3, like, there just was, it added like another 5 minutes, and it was just too much time in addition to the other things that I had to cut out. So like, I really wanted to convey that right here. This is, you know, it's not ideal, but it's like, okay, because you guys caught on that, like, oh, there's a loop, he's getting it. Otherwise I would have put 3 there, and there were some other set pieces that I wanted to convey that really showed how the world was breaking before it just went from flower to suddenly lake, you know, like that. That's why that feels a little bit like sudden. Okay, so let's pause there for a second. So with this one, like, something is definitely changing, and that like worries Celine, because because like she's going out every night to hunt for actor Mark. She's not going out there just to watch guard. No, she's going to fucking kill him, and she's just got to find him first. So this kind of duality between it, and like it plays off of the whole thing that I've been hinting at for fucking ever. The whole go back to sleep. It's time to wake up. Like, you need to go to sleep. You need to wake up. It's this duality of the two of these characters having to share like a body. Like, I wanted to write this as if like, what the fuck is it like for two people to share like a single life, like a body like that? And so the way it plays out is like Celine made this place for broken things. The broken things is Damien. Damien is the broken thing in this. Like, Celine made mistakes in Who Killed Mark Blyer, and that wasn't conveyed properly, but she made mistakes. She misjudged what the actor was capable of. And so when push comes to shove, like, and everything goes wrong, the one person that Celine is going to try to protect is Damien. Like, that's what she's going to do, bar none. Because like it's the one thing that's important to her, and that's why I wanted to flesh that out and like really establish this relationship. Like, it's the motivation behind it. She would do anything, literally anything, to protect her little brother. Like, that's really what I wanted to convey across that and that point here. So when she goes out at night and he needs, like, you need sleep, this is the point. The only reason that Damien is able to stay alive in whatever sense that he is alive, like his spirit or whatever you want to call it, like the only part of him that is able to stay alive is if he sleeps. So when she's saying like, you're not getting enough sleep, you need to sleep, is like, you absolutely need to sleep while I'm out, because that is the only way that you can stay yourself. Makes sense. Yes. Like I said, this was originally 3 scenes instead of just the 2. But what I wanted to convey is, like, because Wharfstash is unintentionally breaking the universe that they're in, actor Mark is able to take advantage of that. These are not connected different things. It's not deception on the part of actor Mark for this to happen. That's why, you know, they say in improv, like, why is this day important? This day is important because the change started now. Everything up before this was stagnation, looping over. You want to think about Damien going out to cut wood every day and perform his useless task of nothingness. Celine's task at night was her useless task of nothingness, of trying to find the actor and never succeeding. So she also is stuck in a loop of her own making, because Celine's not the master of this world that they're in. She is just able to she has power, so she has some control over it. She's not like in control. I don't think anybody actually is in this. So it's just a matter of, you know, it's just a matter of them both being in purgatory until Wharfstash coming to terms with his own place in this world, and coming to terms with the things that life has thrown him that causes things to spiral downwards. Yeah. So yeah, it's just pretty straightforward. This scene is just like, he's led to believe that Celine is in the water. The other scene that was deleted from this and had to be rewritten was, this was going to be a progressing thing where the first night he goes and wakes up and sees the flower, and then he comes back, tells Celine about the voice. He goes to sleep. He wakes up from the door being blown open. So it's like every night you can hear Celine locks the door, locks it in. There's no locks on the inside. It's locked from the outside, which Damien is like, that's not weird. But she locks the door. And so the deleted scene was going to have the door blow open and him go outside and hear Celine call for help. And so it was going to be a progressing thing where he goes out a little bit. He got lost in the storm, and he woke up in the day in bed, and Celine's there because she dragged him in from being out in the snow. And there was going to be more dialogue. There was a lot of dialogue that was put into the second segment with the voice that would have been put in like in the next loop back, because then it would have been like at night he woke up and looked in the mirror and saw that. But it's fine this way. Like, it's totally fine the way it is. Was there a flower? Oh yeah, this, the flower when it, what is it like right there? Yeah, it's a flower. I didn't write that in. That was added in by the artist. I just thought it looked cool. A lot of people try to discern meaning out of every single little nuance of what happens in anything. Not everything has a meaning. Some things just look cool, like that. Like, that's cool. It's cool to see. I mean, you draw whatever meaning you want from it. Like a lot of what I write, like, it's when I talked about Wilford Mother Loving War session, I was like, everything is very plain there, and it is very plain. With this, it is very similar. Everything in this is very plain. Everyone's like, it's so complicated, it's so crazy how convoluted the story is. Like, it's really not. Like, the details, the nitty gritty, the nuance, the minutia of it. You're too focused on the minutia of it all. I literally wrote that line because people are always like, but what about the vase that was in the living room, and why was it had a tint of red and maybe some blue in there? And it's like, you're too focused on the details. Like, the point of a story is not to get wrapped up in, you know, in all those tiny little details of those things. Not that the details are unimportant when talking about a story, but there is a line at which it becomes bad, because then you become over analytical about things, and you wonder what the meaning of everything is, so you force your own meaning into it, and like, then things can spill out and not make sense. What about the snow though? I like the winter theme. It's cool. Seems like purgatory, seems like stagnation. I like the thing of going from winter to spring. It's just good. I liked it. Because vases hold flowers. Yeah, very funny. Very, very funny. Also, this shot, like, I'm not 100% sure what this represents, but it's fucking cool, right? You know what I mean? Like, this, you know, people are like, this represents the souls of the people that Darkiplier killed. And like, Darkiplier doesn't kill anybody. It's just like, this is just fucking cool. Like, sometimes the rule of cool wins out over anything. This is really fucking cool. It's just a great shot. It's so cool. Like, I love the whole ideas of demon faces peering out, like, and all these, like, you know, the Damien dead face, like, bro, it's so cool. It's just fucking cool. Sometimes the answer is just, it's really cool. Like, really fucking cool. With the voices, like, I wanted something to really, like, fill the space of this. I didn't pick anything specifically because of story beats. I picked things that sounded interesting, like that would be visually engaging, or auditorially engaging. The point is that he's hearing things behind the scenes, you know, behind the curtain. You're peering behind the curtain. You can hear, if you're on a sound stage and you walk down behind the scenes, you'll hear people doing their scenes and telling their stories and acting out their stories behind the different stages. You're just hearing echoes. These are all echoes, just echoes. Doesn't mean anything specific, but this is what I mean when people focus on the nuances. People worry about what the voices are saying. They're not worried about why you're hearing voices. That should be the question in people's minds with a lot of like these things, and not just what I do, but in stories in general. It's not about the details of what the voices are saying, but just stop and ask, why are there voices in the first place? That's the question to really ponder. Like, why would there be voices here? Like, people automatically, they skate right over. They're like, oh yeah, of course there would be voices in that void. That would make total sense. I've been in voids before, and there are always voices just chitter chattering. Like, no, why? Why? Not what, why? Not what did he say? Analyze the audio. Like, why? That's the question, yeah. I want to, I'm going to let this play a little bit, but just to preface is about the actor. It is really fucking hard to voice two different characters in the same goddamn scene and have them sound at least remotely different. And I think I pulled it off pretty well, because like I wanted, originally, like I was doing a more like, you think that you could be, and then I was like, man, that doesn't sound right. So I thought about what I sounded like when I first started YouTube. You know, hello everybody, Markiplier here. You know, a higher like timbre to the voice. So like, and then I made him really sing song, like, Damien, you are a hard man to find, like really sing songy, and I think like it came across really well. Like, I really loved doing the lines. Like, fucking love doing the lines just because once I got the groove of it and I was like, I picked what I wanted that to be. I was like, duh, this makes sense. And then I was like realizing that Damien was just like very wooden in his lines. So I was like, all right, let's try to do. Then I redid all of those lines, and you know, it was just like it was really cool. Anyway,
If you did,
all right, for those of you who are wondering, that line there was so intentional because that is a reference to the 1950s show Hollywood Squares, and that was specifically meant so you would know the exact year that no, not at all. I thought it sounded like what he would say. I wanted him to say something that was kind of like game showy and showboaty, like Hollywoody, like act what an actor would say. You're not going to say like, hey, you got it right, you know, and circle takes a square. Fucking I don't know, I just thought it sounded cool. And yeah, they have this. He and Wilford have the same line about how Celine would rip their heart out. I wrote these two at the same time. I wanted to really convey from two different people who are both making who both at this close to this time in the story were saying apologies. Originally, this is going to be like minute 15, and I think that happens at minute like 12 or something of Wilford Mother Loving Mustache. They're both. It's very similar in the way these two confrontations happen. Like with the detective and Mustache. Like they're having a very similar conversation with Damien and the actor, but it's just they're different people. So like these reasonings and these things playing out, like happen in different ways just because of who they are. Like the Wilford, like he's like I'm sorry, and just really fucking actually gives an apology because he legitimately is sorry and he's a sweetheart, a murderous psychopath that he is. But it's just like he's just like. He really apologized, and then the actor comes. He's like, "I've come to apologize." Doesn't ever fucking apologize. Like that was intentional. Like I've come to apologize, and then never ever apologizes. Yeah. I also wanted him to be just so fucking condescending. Just like, "Whoa, easy boy. All right, come on, chum. All right, kid. Let's sit down a little bit. You're just being silly."
stop you right there. And oh, how beautiful the future is going to be with you.
So I want to point out something. This is the very first conversation you have with the actor. Literally, think about it. The actor in the entirety of Who Killed Markiplier only said one line, and that was "welcome, welcome, welcome." Or he had a couple lines, you know, but one paragraph of text was all the actor has ever said up until this point. He didn't say a fucking thing besides "it's not fair, is it?" And it's just like, that was all. That's all he said. It's all he fucking said. That's all he said in the entire series. This is the first time he's talked. And one of the things that I haven't looked at my notes at all, but one of the things that like I wanted to put across very clearly is something that I said a long time ago, and I still stand by it. If something is not on the screen, implied in some way, shape, or form, it is not true. You can infer truths, but like by true, okay, forget I said true, is not inherently proven. There we go. It's not proven. If it's not on the screen, if it's not said implicitly, if it's not directed in there, I firmly believe in a story it is not provable. It's not proven true. That's why I said at the Who Killed Markiplier like stream 2 years ago that when I said I would have liked Damien and Celine to be brother and sister, but it was never ever proven. They never said it, they never mentioned it, no one inferred it, no, there was no suggestion of it happening in that series, so it wasn't provable. Him going through this summary is proof of his crime, of what he orchestrated, all the things he did. His explanation, his motive is in this dialogue here. This is just him saying exactly what he intended to do,
Exactly properly executed.
plans weren't exactly properly executed. I planned this that I'm saying afterwards, but he said before it didn't go how I wanted it to go. And what he wanted to happen, like, happened only halfway through. Yeah. I just love delivering these lines. Can I talk about it? Can I just like say that? I love it. Like, and oh, how beautiful the future is going to be with you. Like just having, as soon as I went back and I was like, I decided on like the sing-songy higher kind of voice with a lot of like low undertone effects, like just like it really just, it breathed, it lived, it moved. It was so creepy. Like I hate the trope of like video game villains and like the big baddies always being like, you wait hang on, what is my preset here? Which one is it? This is you will die a million deaths and I will shit on your grave, you I'm evil. And I'm like, I hate the trope of that being like the case for all things, because I feel like there's so much play in like different types of menacing, and just I love that. So anyway, some people are saying like you sound like that idiot detective. It's just like because he does. The detective was screaming murder back in the mansion too, and Who Killed Markiplier. So what I wanted to convey with this is like the same thing I said about Celine. Like Celine needed to have motivation, to have like a character, to have like drive. I can't just say that the actor wanted revenge without painting the idea of what kind of person the actor really is. Like he's in this world where he gets to play out the leading role of any story he wants. It's perfect. It's beautiful. Like he can't imagine other people not loving that. He can't. He thinks he's doing Damien a favor, because he's like, you get to be part of my story. You're so lucky. Can you believe how lucky? And you'll be great at it. You're going to be great. Like, oh, wait, he didn't have an accent like that, but whatever. Like, you're going to be great. Yeah, I kept like slipping in, but just like he's a narcissist. He's just a narcissist. He's so much a narcissist. He's so up his own ass. He can't even imagine that he's wrong. I have this big it's kind of like evolved over time, but I have this belief that nobody is fully evil or fully good. Like the whole concept of a villain and a hero, that's all just stories. That's not real life. Like there aren't real villains and real heroes. There are just people, some of them who believe like are empathetic and like can help other people but have less selfish qualities, and there's some people that see everyone else as the villain. Like the true villain is the one that has the most enemies. Like it's just like when you see the world as everyone's out to get you, like maybe there's a reason why everyone doesn't like you, and it's like it's just this concept that like no one's truly fully 100% evil because they're only pursuing what they think is best for them. But some people go about it in a really dick way, like a really dick way. And so with the actor, like the reason he thinks he's the hero is because from his perspective, he is. From his perspective, everyone else is the villain in his story. Everyone else did him wrong. And like if you put yourself in his shoes and you look out and you get this warped narcissistic sensibility about, like, imagine you were as self-absorbed as this, like you could see how he truly believes that everyone else is out to get him. And so like this is what I wanted to like convey with like his narcissism and his like demeanor and why he thinks he's actually the hero. Just my absolute, let me just put it on mute for a sec. Just like my absolute favorite part of this, like, because like you just heard what I talked about his narcissism before. Like this is his narcissism just spilling over, because he's like, he is saying like, you wouldn't have anything if it wasn't for me. If Celine hadn't run off instead of, you know, maybe we didn't have a good relationship and you know, she like, no, she ran off. Wilford stole her from me. Like this is the first time we're actually hearing this. Like, because this is things that I've talked about before, but this is the first time he's hearing this. And just, I gave up everything for her. And he really thinks that. He really thinks he sacrificed everything for her, because, and the reason he says that is because his career tanked after she left. He gave her all these, like this house, the money, he gave everything for her. And when she left, he lost everything. So therefore it is her fault. Like that's his like mindset. his idea behind it. Like, he's so in his own head about what happened here that he's just like he's just this broken thing, but he's fine. Like, he's gracious because he's willing to move on. Like, that's what this next part's about. Okay, so him saying these words, Damien, you know, he's starting to remember, but he doesn't remember everything. And he definitely doesn't understand anything. That's kind of like his shtick at this point. You remember in The Void, in the 4th episode of Who Killed Markiplier, he's literally, Damien's just like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. Like, it's kind of like it's kind of like he's just a big dumb softy. And it's just like, he's a little slow on the uptake. So he literally is like, leave me alone, let me live my life in peace. And that's where actors just like, oh really, okay, is that so? Yeah, he's just like he's just like, Damon, you don't, oh man, you're so far behind the times on this, because Damien doesn't really remember what the last few steps, like, he doesn't remember losing his body, he doesn't remember any of this, he doesn't realize that he's kind of dead. Like, he doesn't. That's the point of these, the interstitials of like him seeing his reflection as a rotten corpse. Like,
There's no ending for the likes of us. Not anymore. What?
It's just like all reflections of who he is. And like, there was when I talk about how like I wasn't a great writer in Who Killed Markiplier, is like, I wish I had trusted my first instincts, because the first iteration, I'll go ahead and tell you this, because it doesn't matter now because it's not canon anymore, even if people will run from it. But I'd rather get everything out on the table in this one as opposed to hide something later and just being like that. The original ending for Who Killed Markiplier was not the Damien and Celine take the viewer's body. The original ending was still the actor steals Damien's body, but then Damien was going to be forced to inhabit Mark's old body, the broken one, the one that'd been stabbed 37 times, the stuff that all that happened to that was the original ending. And I rewrote it, and I'm glad I rewrote it, and I'm not glad, because I like the feel of the current ending of Who Killed Markiplier way more than I did the other ending, because I loved the emotional, even if it was so sad, like the emotional moment that Warfstache had, that was so, like, I loved that so much, and I like that, but it also made a lot of problems, like for like trying to figure out how to write anything beyond that and answer a question. Like, it was one of those things where the rule of cool took over like what I wanted, and it was just like going to be it was going to be like, it was a very much more emotional and much more like impactful, and it had, the ending was very, very, it had this punch to the gut that I really needed at that point, especially like, because when I wrote Who Killed Markiplier, and especially like in the months after that, I was in a really low place. And it's not that like I was in a low place so I wanted to make others suffer, like that's not what it was, but it's just where my mindset was. I wanted that, like I craved this like really, really tragic ending to it, and it fit. Like it also wasn't one of those things where I was just like, I'm sad so I want it to be sad. It's like, it really fit. Like it was a combination of a lot of elements, and but the original intention was that Darkiplier was going to be inhabiting the actor's old body, and that's why he was like dead and you know, this like zombie kind of thing coming back to life. But I'm telling you this just to let you guys know that I'm not a perfect storyteller. I'm not a perfect writer. Not everything has a nice tight bow wrapped on it. Not everything is perfectly executed. And when I'm saying that, I'm saying you don't need to make everything fit to tell a decent story. You also don't need to have everything fit for people to appreciate a story being told. Not everything has to be perfect. Stories are just that. They're stories. And so when it comes down to this, and Damien being like in this limbo state of purgatory of death and not death, being kept alive by his sister doing God knows what to try to keep him alive. Like that's really like where it's starting to come to, and it's where like Damien's starting to like get this realization. Like, and let's keep watching so I can give more context to what I'm saying. Like there's a lot that to unpack in this ending, and I actually rewrote this entire ending. Originally it was going to be much shorter because I was worried about, you know, it getting too wordy and too big, and I was trying to cut down time as much as possible, and I realized like the ending, like I couldn't just leave it on this unknown note, like this unknowable note. I mean, it was a perfectly knowable ending, but it was just so short. It just didn't really give Damien a chance to make a choice, because I wanted it's so important. Like I've been hammering about like characters and like what they want, their motivations. Like Damien just wants to be able to make a choice. Like he has had no say in anything. His original like saying, his motto, his part from Who Killed Markiplier, of the three characters in there, was life is ours to choose. And he has not had a choice this entire time. Like I couldn't leave it with an ending that didn't give him a choice. And that's what this ending is. So like he literally is just saying, like, I'm tired of people yanking me around, people fucking with my life, you know. And when he asks there, like, am I dead? He wants to know. He doesn't, like, he's ready to face the truth. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, you don't want to know the answer, but you have to know. Like, he's got to know. This place doesn't make sense. Like, he's just been told by the actor indirectly that he's dead. Like him, when the fire goes out, that's him feeling like, I wrote in a line that before I rewrote it, like pretty soon after I initially wrote it. Those was like, I can't feel my heart. That's him. He can't breathe. He can't feel his heartbeat. That's what's implied there. Is just he feels dead, cold. He feels cold. He feels dead. Like just that's implied. That moment where Celine says she's tired. Like Damien, he sleeps at night. Celine has never slept this entire time. She is watching vigilantly, like just hunting vigilantly. She is not resting, just because she's such a creature of such willpower that she's just like powering through this. So when Damien's finally asking, like, am I dead? And she defiantly says, no, like not on my watch. And then behind her, like the wall's cracking. Like she knows the world, the little sanctuary that she made is crumbling. Like there's too much damage to it. Like it's breaking. Like this little hideaway, this secret place that she made for broken things is breaking down. And so that's when she goes from the defiant no to the defeated no. And that's her just being like slumping shoulders, being like, I'm just so fucking tired. Like actual story. So Celine in this moment, she both starts to defeat, but then it's like she picks herself back up really quickly. Like she's like, she almost admits defeat, but then she's just like, he hasn't won yet. And you know, Damien, being, you know, her brother, her younger brother, he cares very much about Celine. He's very protective about her. There was that line, I didn't call back to it, but there's a line that they both have that they share from Who Killed Markiplier, which is like, just be careful, and it's like, I can take care of myself. Or I believe her line is just like, I don't need help, least of all from you. It's just like more like same thing, different words. But Damien, you know, he cares about her, his sister, and you know, he remembers everything. That's the point of those lines. Like, and that's why the music gets like intense again, because she's just like, she's going down the path. This is like, he sees her going down a path that if she keeps going down it, she will never come out of it. Very similar into the way of the detective, like he could go down that path of obsession forever. And if Wolfstache did nothing, maybe he would never have been able to break out of that. And this is the same thing with Damien. Like he wants to help. That's why I love this moment.
Celine, you can.
So this is like an important moment for Damien, because he's making a choice. Like he doesn't know the details of what's going on. He doesn't know exactly what's up, but you know, he trusts that Celine is trying to do the best for him, and he knows that whatever she's doing, whatever her motives are, at the end of the day, she is his sister, and he wants to help. Whether or not that means, you know, things will change for him, like he wants to help. Like that's what happens, you know, in these situations. If I had to boil Damien down to one big like moral or whatever, I would say this is a story about coming to terms with the things that life throws at you. This is about someone who didn't choose to have things happen to him. And no one ever does. No one ever chooses what life throws at you. No one ever chooses what kicks you while you're down. No one ever chooses to suffer and go through loss and pain and tragedy. But, you know, in my mind, it's not about what happens to you. It's about how you respond to that pain. Like it's about how you respond afterwards. It's about the choices that you make when that happens. And it might not always work out for the best, and it might not always be perfect, but those choices that you make define who you are as a person. And Damien, you know, he's been kicked around, he's been dragged around, he hasn't had a choice. Things have happened to him that he doesn't understand. But at the end of it all, he makes the choice that even if he doesn't understand, he knows that his sister can't do this alone. Period. And that's all that matters to him. He's gonna help, and he wants to help. So, like, what was that? That's a big philosophy of my life, like the things I do. Because Damien, like he said, some things can't be fixed. Damien knows he can never go back to what he had before. He can never go back to the life that he had, and he's okay with that. And like that's just I love that mindset. And even if I as a person am writing something that I can't always fulfill, like I love that this character can make this choice to not even like look at the bright side, but just realize that there's nothing that you can do to go back and fix the mistakes of the path. The only thing that you can do is move forward from that point. And that's what he's saying here. Like he's okay that Celine tried to fix, but trying to fix him is going to get her killed. And he's okay with what happened to him. He's not happy about it. And I don't think anybody would be, but you know, it's okay. And then just like, I love this piece of music because like, as soon as he makes his choice, like it stops being a sad piece.
With that.
A few notes, just for story beat, like Damien is doing in here is he's taking his turn. Basically, he's because this whole time Celine's been doing it all herself. Celine is doing everything herself. She's been like protecting Damien, like going out trying to find the actor, like keeping this world safe, like all this stuff all by herself. And so he's offering help and basically just saying like, I'm gonna do it. And she's like, I don't remember the last time I slept, is because she hasn't, and she's just very tired. And then, you know, he's like, maybe you should be careful with his wishes, you know. She says this will change you forever. Like it's like he's just resolving that and make sure that bastard stays dead. It's just like, you know, this is a good final note to end on. Clarification: Celine is not dead. So like how in this entire conversation, some people were like, I can't believe Celine's dead now, and I'm like, what? Wait, what? What? And I'm just like, I guess people looked at this moment and are like, oh, she's dead. She drowned in the water that is definitely real. And it's just like, you see a house with a giant wall cracking in it, and you're like, it's real water. It's deadly. It's just like, this is a place of the mind. It's not necessarily, it's just not real water. I mean, I can get how people would think that, but Celine is not dead. She's sleeping. So the whole big overarching story, overarching meaning, whatever it is, whatever you want to say, whatever it could be. The whole overarching story is that these are stories, pure and simple. Literally, like I'm not even just saying that just to be like, oh, they're just made up bullshit stories. No, in this universe, the world that they live in after the events of Who Killed Markiplier are that they are in stories. They are acting out, scripts. They are acting out these videos. They're doing these things because they are characters in stories. The detective in Wilfred Mother Loving Warstash. Some people got this, but not everyone believed it because it was probably too simple, and they were like, it can't be that. It's got to be convoluted. No, it's very simple. The detective is who the detective is because he's a detective. So therefore, he's going to be the detective in every story throughout. Some people were pointing to the train, when Worf was like, oh, the train. Remember, how long were we stuck in the snow for? That is just a reference to Murder on the Orient Express or whatever it was. It's not saying that, it doesn't matter like what he said. It matters why he said that thing. Like what I said before. He's mentioning that because on that train in that story, there is a detective. And there's a character that theoretically Warfstache could play in that story. The detective plays out the role of whatever he needs to fill because he's the detective. Much like the actor wanted Damien to be the villain. He wants people to slot into these roles in the story and act them out and be these characters. And with Celine and Damien, they live in this place because Celine made a little pocket story of her own. She made up this narrative. She made up just enough so that Damien wouldn't question it and would keep going out into the world, get firewood. But there's firewood already. Like, that's why he said those things. But we already have firewood, and I needed to get back home. He doesn't realize these things, just like the detective doesn't realize that. Why does he know? Why does he know that he needs to hunt him down? Why does he know that, oh, we had a close call in Bermuda because he knows that because in the script, his character knows that. This is not about the host or the author. Like, don't get this confused with that. That's not what this is about. But just as an metaphor or simile or allegory, like whatever, imagine if you had a character like the detective and his character traits were hunts Warfstache, has had many encounters with Warfstache, was very close to catching him on numerous occasions, but he always managed to slip away. That's literally the opening dialogue of Wilfred Mother Loving Warstache. Every time I got close, but he always managed to slip away. That is the preface of a story, but that does not mean that you have lived that character's life, and that's why the detective falls short on all of that dialogue, because every time he's asked more details about it, which Warfstache is asking him outside of the script, he's asking him because Warfstache doesn't exist, and he's not following the rules of the story. He's breaking the rules of the story. Continuity doesn't make sense because he's not playing his role correctly. He's just having fun in this weird imagination world. He's doing that stuff. The detective is just trying to still stick to his role. He doesn't understand that he's not part of that. So that's why, it doesn't make sense for him. And the Warfstache breaks the detective out of that. And that was the whole concept of Wilfred Mother Loving Warstache. In this one with Damien and Celine, there exists in this little dream world of non-reality. This isn't real. None of that's real. Nothing happening there is real. And this kind of idea that there's heroes and villains, that's all just what the actor wants. That's all he wants. He just wants to live out stories. He wants to play roles. He wants to play pretend, play imagination. He wants to go into this world and have this great time playing all these different roles. And that's an allegory to that's a metaphor for all the videos on my channel. That's all it is. It is justification for my channel to be what it is, and for me as real me to play all these roles. the truth of it is, the house is just an analogy for my head. Like, this is just my imagination. And all these characters in it are characters that I've written. And funnily enough, it is canon that there are plot holes because I'm not the perfect writer. I've made the perfect out for me. See, I'm a genius. See, if there are plot holes and things don't make sense, because I made them up wrong. Everything's fucking in my head. All you guys are seeing are little snippets of these characters in my head. That is literally how I wrote these things. The house is my mind. The actor, Damien, and Morphstash are like three facets of my personality. Damien is the empathetic part, the caring part, the one that really wants to help, the one that wants to go out there and do things. Morphstash is the insane part, the zany part, the one that doesn't always make sense, the one that says things that he doesn't mean, the part that's goofy, that tries to have fun all the time. The actor is the part of me that's kind of narcissistic, the asshole part of me. Like, it's these are all just like pieces of myself. As I've always said with my channel is just a representative of who I am and what things are coming across. So with Who Killed Markiplier, like that's really what it is. And of course, like you could get, well, but then who's Celine and who's that part of your brain? And it's like, it's a story. And thankfully, I can finally say that that's just the justification for it. Like, it is a story. It is all funny make-em-ups in my head, and that's how I've made it. But just to get more specific and to actually care about the story is, in this universe where hypothetically all this is happening in a place called the mansion that is a representative of my head. These characters act out their lives in my head, and they're transformed in a way where time doesn't necessarily make sense. Because as far as timeline goes, I imagined when I first wanted this to happen, I imagined in that one moment, and a lot of people guess this, in that one moment where the hand in Who Killed Markiplier reaches out for the cane, I imagined like an eternity hanging in just a single second. Like, if in that moment time froze and all of the events of Damien happened in that one moment, like just that one moment hanging in time, that's when it all happened. Because I've said forever, like, time doesn't make sense, especially in your mind. Like, the order of events doesn't always make sense. Things happening don't make sense. And if that can all hang in that one moment, it can all take place right then and there. It's like, that's what it is. No, see, oh God, I see it already. Celine is the protector archetype. It's like, no, not all the characters are a part of my personality. The only things that I'm saying is those three are representative of who I am. Probably because I play them. And I think that's really poetic and nice. The other characters, let's just say, because people want this, let's say that those are before they went in the mansion. They were real people with real lives, and they had their own dreams and ambitions. But once they went in the mansion, they became trapped there. They were trapped inside the mind of some other me. Like, it was just, they were trapped in my mind, and that's kind of like what that's all about. So don't worry about trying to apply every single one of the characters to a facet of my personality. I mean, do it if you want. I don't care. It's not right, but like, whatever. It's just the fact that I love to tell stories, and I didn't want this Who Killed Markiplier thing to become the defining moment of my entire channel, and I don't think it is. I think that's still Five Nights at Freddy's. Yeah, but no, it's not like the movie Split. Stop. It's not like the movie Split. That's not what it is. That's not what it is at all. See, I knew that's what the problem with explanations is. People will take everything I'm saying absolutely literally and like it's gospel, and they'll try to apply it to other characteristics. That's not what it is. That's not what it is at all. Because it's just a story. And it's just a story at the end of the day. So there's one more question that I know you guys will ask, and that's where is the viewer in all of this? And if you think about it in terms of what I just said and understand the motif of the viewer being an observer of the story, you're right there, right exactly where you are behind the glass. Because right now, you're watching this behind glass of your phone, of your laptop, of a computer. Like, the analogy is simply that. Like, that's all it is. I like the first person storytelling element of it. I like that about that. And the whole concept of, like, you know, being trapped in the mirror and stuff like that is very nice and it's very poetic and it's very cool. But a lot of what I was trying to get at is the viewer is not just you playing it out. The viewer is literally you. From that moment on of Who Killed Markiplier, after the events of that, you guys are literally watching everything unfold. The stories that play out inside of this universe, you are forced to be an observer of it, never actually being able to change anything, never being able to do anything, just watching. And like that's kind of just like what it was all about. And so I imagined this you know, it seems really depressing from the end of Who Killed Markiplier, and that's why I wanted to write these two stories to let it open up into the universe that we know. Because like I like writing like dramatic shit and stuff like that, but I also like writing really fun shit, and that's the point of like my channel. It's not to make everything really like down in the dumps about everything. It's about fun. Like what we do here and the videos that we make, they're fun. Like there's some fun shit, and like that's why I say canonically the immediately next event from this is Markiplier TV, because Markiplier TV is a fucking fun experience. It is fun. It doesn't have to be sad that you guys are watching things from now on, because if everything is fun, like if everything is really cool and fun, that's what makes it a great experience. And so in the universe, like obviously, like the story is what the story is, but the beautiful thing is you aren't trapped in there with them. You're not stuck in with these characters, these little pieces of imagination in these worlds. You are just watching, and that's cool. And it's pretty cool. How does a date with Markiplier fit into this? It doesn't. Like, don't worry about that. That doesn't fit in, period. Because like everything that happens after Who Killed Markiplier. So it's Who Killed Markiplier is the beginning. It's the Five Nights at Freddy's 2 of it all, whatever. It's like Who Killed Markiplier, Wilfred Mother Loving Wolf / Damien, and then everything after that is fun. Like it just gets fun because it's a world of imagination where everybody gets to think. Everybody accepts what happens. Like that's the big moral of it. Like I really do. I don't think that this is me being like, I don't take Damien seriously, or I don't take the story behind it seriously, because I very much do. Never make that mistake, because I really do care about the dramaticness of it. I care that things exist as the way they should be, as the way they deserve to be. And that doesn't mean that just because I want things to be fun after that doesn't mean that I'm never going to make something dramatic or serious again, or I'm never going to like give things the gravitas that it needs. That is essential to like what I want to showcase in what I do. And with these stories, like the moral is just accepting the shit that life throws at you, not accepting it gladly, like just being like, oh yeah, more please, but just accepting that life, much like this weird place that they're in, like it's indeterminate, it's non-judgmental, but it can be cruel and it can be horrible and it can beat you down and it can be completely unfair. Like it's not fair. Like sometimes life just isn't fair, and the way that people can react to it really describes who they are. Like the actor, he spiraled downward because he could not accept the idea that life had thrown him the cards that they did. He couldn't accept that his wife left him, that he lost the roles because he did anything wrong, that like he was spiraling out of control. He lost his friends. He couldn't accept that. So his choice was to create a situation that tore his entire friendship and the people that cared about him apart. He killed, he destroyed lives, he did terrible things, all because that was his choice, and how he responded after life dealt him that card. With Wharfstash, he may have made mistakes. He was not a perfect person, but he was thrown into a situation where this former friend of his contrived a situation that took everything away from him. And his justification was madness. Things didn't make sense for him, and rightly so, because the universe didn't make sense anymore. So his choice was to roll with it, to enjoy things while they're there. The temporary nature of life is why it's so precious. You know, what you have and when you have it is so essential to appreciate. And that's all Wharfstash does. He lives in the now. He lives in the moment. And that can make you do some really weird things and really fucked up choices, especially as you start to spiral downwards. But that's the embodiment of that choice. With Damien, he had no choice of what was happening. He didn't understand why. He couldn't contemplate why his friends were tearing themselves apart, why Mark was dead, why Wharfstash didn't care, or Wilford didn't care, why all these things were happening, why his sister was suddenly here again trying to do some weird things with the occult that he didn't understand, and he was robbed, and he had things stolen from him. And then at the end of it all, like he's just the kind of person that wants to help. And of course, he wants revenge. He's angry, like he was angry at Mark. He really was. And like he wants to take revenge back. But the point is, like, the choices that led him to where he was are choices that help the people that he cares about. That's at the end of the day. And I said a long time ago that Darkiplier was the opposite of me. This narcissistic asshole that was just this terrible person that could never ever like be loved, would manipulative, was this awful person. And I ask you, has Darkiplier ever been named in any of my videos? Who is the person, who is the character in this universe that is the opposite of me? A narcissistic asshole who would use the people around him at any given turn, like do anything to get ahead in life. Who is the person in these videos that is the real Darkiplier?